Welcome to the April 11th meeting of the City of Tampa Variance Review Board. From my left, the members of the board are
Una Johnson. Cher Powers.
Brett Feldman.
Aaron Murphy.
okay, and then also in attendance this evening from legal,
Susan Johnson Velez.
from development coordination,
Jane Madu.
natural resources. Is Stephen here? Yep. Or Jonathan from transportation. Okay, so there's some procedural rules that we need for you to follow. When your case number and petitioner's name are called, please approach the podium. When you approach the podium, state your name, the address, and confirm that you have been sworn in. The petitioner or its agent will have 10 minutes to make a presentation, and then other participants who wish to speak will have 3 minutes, and then the petitioner will get an additional 5 minutes of rebuttal. We do keep time, so watch for the signals. And it's very important that everybody be sworn in. When you're called, if you haven't, please let us know. Do you want me to read the whole shebang here?
Yeah, usually we go through.
Okay, all right. Time periods are stated, will be kept by the board. Any information such as pictures or plans that have not previously been submitted in support of your petition must be individually presented and accepted by the board. After acceptance by the board, you must submit the item to the staff for it to be entered and made part of that infamous permanent record. The board bases its decision on competent and substantial evidence which is submitted and which meets the criteria required by the city's code of ordinances. Please be sure to clearly state your hardship criteria during the presentation. A majority of the board is needed to approve your variance. The variance granted by the board, if granted, will only be for what is shown on the site plan and will be in compliance with any terms or conditions stated by the board. All other city codes will need to be met. If the case is approved, your variance will expire 2 years from the date of the decision. If your case is continued, it will be continued to next month's agenda or to the next available position on our agenda. If the case is denied, you may wish to have the review board's decision appealed to the city council, and you must file a petition for review of the board's decision within 14 days of the board's written decision. You will not be able to pull any permits until a 14-day review period is passed. Your cooperation in ensuring this meeting is run smoothly is greatly appreciated. So, is there any change to the agenda, by the way, since I know it,
There are no changes.
okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes? We didn't have a March meeting, so this would be the February board meeting.
I move to approve the board meeting of February 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise? So the minutes are approved. And at this time, I will ask legal staff to confirm whether there are any ex parte communications or conflicts of interest.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I would ask any of the board members if you have had any ex parte communications with anyone with respect to any matter on the agenda this evening.
No, ma'am.
Seeing none, I would ask if any board members are aware of any conflicts of interest that they may have with respect to any matter on the agenda this evening. Seeing none, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so, one of the staff members going to do the swearing in. And if you expect to speak tonight, please, please, please be sworn in at this time.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you are about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay. We're ready to call our first case?
Madam Chair, before we get to the cases scheduled for today, there are some matters that I wanted to address, I wanted to bring before the board. Some members have expressed that they would like to have a workshop for, to go over the criteria for the VRB and the other things that are entailed, usually presented by legal. And I wanted to find out from the board what would be an agreeable or suitable time. Would you prefer a day meeting or a night meeting, such as today, where it would come either an hour before our scheduled VRB meeting to have the workshop? What would be the preference of the board?
What's the board's pleasure?
So in the past, we've done it either before a meeting or following a meeting. Those are usually pretty good. Alternatively, if y'all wanted to do it via Zoom or something along those lines, or if that's not feasible because we have to do it as a public forum,
Correct.
okay. Then logically it makes sense to do it before or after the
Beforehand.
meeting.
Okay. So would 4:30, if we schedule, and we would try to, I think, pick a date when we had a lighter agenda. I think this month is pretty light, but next month I think is gonna be a little bit more heavy agenda. So would 4:30 be, if we did it before, or would, that would be something that you all could accommodate with enough advance notice? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because the other thing I wanted to bring to the board's attention as well is that the legal department is working on revising rules of procedures for not only the variance review board, but other boards like the ARC and the Historic Preservation Board, just to get more uniformity.
Mhm.
And also because I think we realized last month when there was a lack of a quorum that there was no automatic, rolling over of the cases. And so they've all had to be renoticed and put on a different agenda. So we like to take care of things like that, as well as, emergencies in case there's a hurricane that comes or something like that, that there's a provision for that already in the rules of procedure, so we don't have to scramble and try to deal with it on an ad hoc basis. So we would also plan to present those to you at the workshop as well. You wouldn't be able to vote on them that evening, but at least you'd have a chance to review them, and then at the next regularly scheduled VRB meeting, you can vote on those at that time. Okay, so thank you. We'll work with staff to get the workshop scheduled.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening and welcome to the VRB scheduled for today, April the 11th, 2023. The first case before the board is VRB 2306, addressed at 3302 West Ellicott Street. This property is zoned residential, RS60 residential single family. The property owner is Melivis Alvarez Perez. And the variance request is to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 6.2 feet. And this is for existing additions to a single-family residence. This is an interior lot in the South Tampa Planning. In the Central Tampa Planning District. It is a work without permits. And here on the site plan towards the south, we see that covered patio, which is the addition that they have made to the single-family dwelling, and where the variance request is being, the subject area for the variance request. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found consistent with conditions, with a comment that they meet all applicable sections of Chapter 27 of the City of Tampa's Code and City of Tampa Tree and Landscape Technical Manual at the time of permitting. This was reviewed by right-of-way and found inconsistent with technical standards and code with the following comment. The site plan does not show that there's an overall easement reserved under vacated Lincoln Avenue per ordinance 8542-A. Revised site plan to show easement area correctly. See right-of-way markup and ordinance uploaded to Acela. There is an existing storage shed in the easement area that is likely to cause problems when trying to permit proposed patio. We received no letters of objection, and we have 2 letters of support for this application. This is a section showing the addition to the rear of the property and showing what that would look like. The applicant provided pictures today. It was too late to add those into the staff report, but I have them here and I'll pass them along to the board.
We ready to proceed?
The board shall consider section 27-80, the criteria for the approval or denial of a variance request. If you have any questions, staff will be available.
Yes.
You go. Yeah, if you could silence your phones just in case. Okay. We can get started? So name, address,
Good afternoon.
and you've been sworn in?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Evelyn Amy de Jesus Rodriguez. I am the authorized rep for the applicants in this variance request before this council board. Good afternoon as well to Mrs. Maru, the city planner, and as well to Mrs. Velez, Johnson Velez as well. So I'm here first to explain the council members about
Okay,
this.
I'm sorry, just a moment. Did you state your name and that you've been sworn in?
What? Excuse.
Name, your address,
Oh,
your
bear
address.
with me, bear with me. My address mine is 1314 West Light Avenue, apartment 105,
Okay,
and that's in Tampa, 33604.
and you were sworn in.
Yes, I was.
Thank you.
And as I just said, I'm the authorized rep for Mrs. Milevis and Mr. Pedro Echevarria. I'm assisting them also with any translation in which they may be needing before the board, so they convey their intentions before this request for variance to the city. Basically, it is our understanding that this was all initiated with a complaint from a neighbor, and accordingly, when the city visited the property, Mrs. Milevis and Mr. Pedro have decided to propose to the board the following. As it's explained on the drawing, they will be eliminating the side, it would be the east side of the terrace, and then they will reduce the setback to make it larger for the back property in the south side. This is a terrace where they used to do their family gatherings, celebrate birthdays, their grandparents, so they take care of their granddaughter. This is where she plays. It's a wood terrace, which they made with a lot of effort, and they have tried to do their best to keep their property comfortable and beautiful, so it can be a pleasant place for them to live in and their family to share. So they will be reducing that terrace so it can comply with code as proposed to the council. I'm not certain if there's any questions that I may respond, or them if I need to bring them over.
So can you point on this where this terrace is that we're seeing? Do you see that?
Sure, the terrace is in the back of the home. The house faces, the front of the house is in the north of West Ellicott Street.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the covered patio, that's how it's spelled. That's what is mentioned that.
Okay, so it is a covered patio, it's not
Yeah,
just
bear with me. So what they're gonna do is they're going to eliminate the side completely. That's what was explained to me prior to this meeting. And then the south side, they're gonna have a setback to at the least 6 feet, 6.2. They will also advise me that the limits of the property, also they are larger too as far as the size on the high wood fence. So they're gonna have more space than is even proposed to the variance from the south side.
Okay. Does that conclude your presentation?
Let me make sure that, anything else I should add? Anything else I should add? No, for now, ma'am.
Okay. Is it questions for the board, or do anybody to speak in? Okay. Anyone in the audience here to speak for or against this case? Seeing no one. Any questions from the board? Thank you.
Hi, I have a question. It's hard for me to follow your words when I'm looking at this map. So we're looking at this map, and this is this the existing condition now that you were explaining? This is how it is right now?
Is it the existing condition? Is it the existing condition right now? Is that the existing condition right now?
Oh, yeah, right now.
Yes, it is.
it's-
Come in, come in.
Okay,
If
so the
staff may-
covered patio that was running alongside the house has already been removed.
As well, yes. This is Mr. De Jesus. He's the permit runner for Mr. Pedro and Mrs. Miladis. So the question is if this is what's the current condition?
Sí, that is the condition
Oh,
of
yes,
the
it is.
property.
Yes,
I
okay.
want to
His name,
clear,
say his name.
they are,
Okay,
we
I'm sorry,
write
sir.
6 feet.
Can I stop you for a sec? I need to have your name and your address and confirm that you were sworn in.
Your name and your address and confirm that you were sworn in.
Jose de Jesus, 8220 North Florida Avenue, Unit 837, Tampa.
387 Tampa, 33604.
Okay, when you're sworn in?
Yes.
He was.
Ah, yes,
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
okay.
So these are the current conditions.
Oh, yes, that's a condition, yes.
Thank you. I'm getting it now.
Any other technical questions regarding the drawings which may we address?
So I have a quick question. If you're done, are you finished with your questions, or do you have more?
You go ahead first. I'm
Okay.
sure it might answer them.
All right. So I'm looking at the survey, and it looks like there's a wedge-shaped piece out of the corner of the property on the northeast side of the property that's not part of your property. Is that correct?
What it says inaccessible corner?
Yeah. So just I can't make out what
Yeah,
that.
it's really faint.
On your photo, just north of where it says high wood fence,
Yeah.
just, you know, that corner
Oh,
over
that
there,
says
it's a bit-
concrete?
Yeah, so what I'm trying to get at is, your property is not exactly a rectangle or a square, correct?
It is, to my understanding, it is a rectangle and that's gonna be removed.
Okay.
This is covered in a wooden roof and it's going to be removed.
Ya tiene retrato de eso, ¿sabes?
We have some pictures,
Dice de-
okay, we have,
Not square.
Yeah, I don't know what this.
we have some
what this red
pictures
is.
which we may show, we have three.
Is that part of their property?
Yes.
Yeah,
May I?
yeah, come on. What-
I have 3 copies.
Thank you. This is what you're showing us, this is the side portion that is being removed or has been
Exact-
removed?
Will be removed and that's part of their proposal to
Okay.
the city board.
That's helpful. Not what I was asking you, though.
No.
That's helpful, but that was not what I was asking you. I was just trying to get a sense of the shape of the property, overall shape of the parcel that the house is on. It's a non-conforming or a non-traditional shape, is that right? It's not a square, it's not a rectangle. The overall property kind of is a fat L.
You say it's a non-conforming, you say it's a non-conforming property or
That's probably not-
conforming?
that's
I
not
think
the
it's a
best choice of
rectangle.
words.
No.
It's a conforming property.
It's a conform, I'm not advising.
Yeah,
I think
that's
I can,
not
I think I can help clarify a little bit. So the lot originally was 75 feet by 115 feet. And then they vacated a right-of-way to the east of the property. And that's why when you go across the north line of the property for the 75, then it comes down 20 feet, it looks like, and then back across the 34.5. So it's not the photo, it would be on the survey.
Can we get the survey back up?
So it is on the survey?
It would be on the survey, yes. No,
Yes,
this is,
okay.
we're talking about the property, not the actual addition.
Okay,
So the property itself had a right-of-way to the east that had been added on by the ordinance that you submitted.
you did?
Yes. Yeah. That's what the survey shows.
That a right-of-way was added?
Well, it was a vacated right-of-way, which they vacated it and then gave ownership over to the existing property owner at that time. So if you look at your survey, there's a red box.
Okay,
Which is where the old shed is.
okay. But the shed is not there anymore.
Which is fine, but what we're saying is, now if you look at the whole overall boundary exterior of the entire lot, it's not square. On the top right-hand corner, there's kind of a cutout there. So what we're saying is that's kind of an irregularly shaped lot. It's not a standard
Oh, okay.
square-shaped lot. We just want to
Correct.
confirm that that's truly your property off to the east that's inside the red dots, which I
Yes.
believe it is.
Did a much
Yes.
better job of choosing his words than I did. All right, so we've confirmed that at least your property is irregularly shaped. Now, can you explain to us, and maybe some of these pictures that you've provided will help us in this portion of it. So I understand you've taken a piece, that side piece of the covered patio, and you're gonna get rid of that. Explain to us why the rest of the covered patio that you want to remain needs to be there as opposed to someplace else. Why wouldn't you stick it on the side of the property where you've got that vacancy? Why does it go there in that particular spot?
Well,
And, I'm sorry, just to clarify, you're talking about the rear, in the rear yard?
Yes,
Within the setback?
The covered patio that
That's required.
you're asking us for a variance for.
Mm-hmm.
Just explain to us why it needs to be in that location as opposed to somewhere else.
well, the family, this, as I mentioned before, this is where they do their gatherings. This is where they have their privacy, and Mr. Pedro and Mrs. Milevis meet with their children and grandchildren. As I mentioned before, and it's also good wind, also it's a very fresh area.
Okay,
So-
let's not focus on the family aspects of things, because that's not really something we can consider.
Okay.
Let's instead focus on the physical aspect of the property. So for example, access to the rest of the home is there.
Definitely.
Are there doors that lead out from the home onto this property that explain why it's there
Yes,
as
there is.
opposed to somewhere else?
Yes, there is a door, sliding door that leads access to the rear of the home. And that's why they chose to do to cover the patio area.
Okay. What about the size of the patio? Why does it need to be the size that it is as opposed to some smaller size that might invade less?
Well, it will be a burden for them to take everything.
Again, not something we can consider in terms of monetary hardships, but in terms of utility, in terms of logical composition of the property. If you could explain to us
Okay.
that way, that would help.
Miss Milevis also has a small kitchenette in the back where she makes coffee for her invitees and, as I said, her family too, when they share. So it will be a burden. It will be as I mentioned, it's a wood patio, so it's not something that will make a difference in the circumstances around the property surrounding them.
Okay.
And it can be removed anytime as well.
So last
They-
question I have for you. It is a covered patio. It is it screened in or just open?
No, it's not screened in, it's
Okay.
open, it's open.
So hypothetically, if we were to agree and grant with you what you're asking for, would you agree to a condition that it would never be closed up, as in air-conditioned space? It would remain open not talking about screens, but it would just be an open area outside.
As I do, but allow me, in
Please,
abundance of
that's what we need to
caution,
confirm.
in abundance of caution, let me confirm, and if
Yep.
you allow me to explain to Mr. Pedro and Ms.
Please do.
Milevis, okay? One moment. Okay, Mr. Pedros and Ms. Milevi don't have a fluent command of English, but I explained to them, and that wouldn't be a problem at all. And they wanted to agree with the council board with that condition.
Okay,
That
so
would be-
if, again, I don't know what's gonna happen, but if we were to agree that we could grant you what you're asking for, you would agree that it would never be closed
Won't be
in
closed. No,
or
cerrado.
air-conditioned space?
No,
Okay,
no, sir.
got it, thank you.
Okay.
I have no further questions. Anyone else?
Anyone else on the board?
I have a question. I see a picture of the portion that was taken down. Do you have any pictures of the portion right now of this covered patio? Does it look similar? Is it of similar construction? Do you have any photographs?
Nothing has been taken down yet. We didn't want to touch anything
Okay.
until we submit the proposal to the variance first. But I do have more pictures.
While you're looking for those, I did remember one other question. You mentioned that the storage shed that's on the southeast corner is no longer there. It's gone? So if you're looking at the site, there's a storage shed that's,
El shed ya no está. El shed ya no
can we
está.
put the
Yeah.
survey back up?
Sí, está todavía.
¿Este ahí?
Sí, eso está todavía.
Okay. Actually, now Mr. Pedro is telling me that, yes, that's there.
It's still there, okay.
Yes.
Nosotros lo vamos a remover, pero que
But you're willing to remove it?
estamos esperando.
Mr. Pedro is telling me that he's willing to remove it as well.
Okay. Thanks.
And,
I don't think it needs to be removed, it just needs to be moved out of
Moved?
the easement. Yeah, it just needs to be moved
oh,
5
move
feet
it.
away
Yes,
from the
move it.
property line.
Okay, that wouldn't be an issue at all. Moverlo. Sí, that wouldn't be an issue.
Was
at all.
Mr. Rodriguez the builder of the home?
I'm sorry, Councilman.
Was Mr. Rodriguez the original builder of the home?
No, he was not.
Do you
This
have any
house-
idea when it was built?
¿Cuándo se construyó la casa? ¿Cuándo se construyó la casa? Más 50 años.
Fue en el 60, ¿no?
In the 60s.
60s? Okay, it's just interesting, looking at the survey, the home itself is actually also in the setback by about 5.8 feet. Yeah, 5.8 feet,
They
5.9
have,
feet.
for what I understand, they have not added any concrete area to the home. They bought it in that, like
Sure,
that.
so it was just an existing condition.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
No, thanks to you.
Any other questions? Okay. We don't have rebuttal since we didn't have any. was they-
I think they were looking for some pictures.
Oh,
Oh,
I
we
was
do
looking
have
for
more.
photos and just trying
Okay,
to understand the character of the covered patio to remain. If it looked similar to the construction at the
Yes, it will be.
photo, or I
It-
just don't know.
Okay, right. It's gonna be looking similar in wood, just like that. Just like what, Ms. Council,
So
lady-
open air, just post with wood
With
roof.
wood,
That's
yes.
all this is?
Beautiful wood, yes.
Okay. And you have no photos?
Not right now. Del patio. Mm-mm. No, but we can provide more pictures if the council request is interested. Oh, Miss Milevis is telling me she has a video of her granddaughter playing at the yard, the patio.
Sorry.
okay.
But if there's, I mean, if the council wishes and Miss Velez Johnson and Miss Namadu wishes additional pictures on what's covered, we'd be more than happy to provide as well.
Yeah, we need to rely on what we have today. We
Okay,
wouldn't be
perfect.
able to.
So Mr. Pedro what wishes to convey that it's gonna look it looks just like the site, just like that.
Any other questions?
So just want to confirm this patio that you have erected on the side that we are currently looking at is still existing. It's
Yes,
not been
madam.
taken down.
Nothing has been touched, as we wanted to wait for the variance requests or any opportunities on the city on comments on that.
It will have to be taken down unless they come back for an additional variance for that side setback,
Yeah,
the way that this is drafted, so
right.
just,
We're on the platform, where you have the extra cover that's on the east side of the house. There's like an additional little cover on top of concrete there. Is there a door that leads outside the house to that covered area?
Yes,
And
yes,
so
it
what-
has sliding doors.
Okay, and so on the inside of that, what room does that door come off of? Like what area in the house?
Okay, it is,
Ella tiene una puerta del ladito
Okay.
atrás y por el lado acá tiene una puerta también.
okay, okay, there's a door on the side, and this is, okay, but this is from the kitchen, de la cocina.
Es como una sala ahí. que
Okay, okay, a kitchen, and then here you have the dining room.
En la sala.
Okay, living room, okay, there's a living room, the sliding door, and then there's also a door on the east side.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't explain that. Jane, is there any reason we can't put the survey back up on the screen? Because they're pointing at stuff that,
That's not Jane, that's
Okay.
the folks in the.
no, I know, I just was
They'll
hoping
get-
she could
they'll get
ask
it.
them. Because they're pointing to things that we can't see. I'm sorry? Yeah. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, you were pointing to something where the doors, can you give us an idea where that was?
Sliding door, ¿dónde está? Sliding door,
Está aquí, aquí más o menos en esta parte.
There you go.
the mouse.
Yes,
Yeah, you see there's a little red
it's moving,
plus
see?
sign down there at the bottom? You can move that around. That'll be your pointer. Oh, something just happened.
Uh-oh.
Thank you.
Oh, go
We-
back.
We lost,
We lost them.
There.
oh, yeah,
Yes, yeah, just leave it
all
there.
right, yeah.
Now the mouse.
Don't click anything, just move them, there you go, see the mouse?
Okay,
See the little-
so
So
there's
use that
the
as your
sliding
pointer.
door.
Está por aquí más o menos.
Here?
Ahí.
Okay, this is where the sliding door is, and then the other door where is la otra puerta.
Y la otra puerta está más o menos acá. Por aquí.
Here, okay.
Esto es
There's-
como la chimenea, está ahí más o menos.
Okay, there's a little door there, it says that there's like a chimney. Like, was a chimney back in the day or something like that.
Si vieron la foto, están en esta foto, si quisieran verla. ¿Dónde están ahí? Por ahí se ve la cocina, ¿no?
Okay, on the east side,
Mm-hmm,
where you have cover there,
mm-hmm.
what rooms does that come off of?
Esto es de la cocina, ¿verdad?
Ahí hay dos puertas, en realidad atrás hay dos puertas.
On the east
Hay
side,
una
you're
aquí,
on the
una
west
light
side
door,
there.
Okay, but ¿qué es la cocina? A la cocina. Esto mira la cocina.
Laundry.
Laundry.
Por atrás hay una slide door que da para la sala y otra para el laundry.
One to the living room and one to the laundry room.
And there's also, as Mr. Murphy pointed out, there's
Yes.
the AC unit over on that side, right next to that cover. So all the AC connections, all that kind of stuff would be right next to that cover. So if the idea is that that would be a more appropriate or ideal location, there's an impediment to putting
Yes.
anything in that location.
Okay.
Agreed. Okay,
I didn't see the,
Yeah, it's
AC
small.
lab.
It's small.
okay. Thank you for pointing that out.
okay. We done with the presentation? Is that,
That will be all unless,
I'm sorry?
No more questions from
No
the
more-
board, so they get rebuttal.
You get rebuttal, you get time to rebut. Anything else that you want to add to the
well,
presentation?
request, well, just our request to allow the variance as proposed and any other condition that the city may convey that we can discuss right now with Mr. Pedro and Mrs. Milevis so they can agree and make sure that they can make an informed decision on what they wish to do. They said their intention is they didn't wish to upset anybody, and they are law-abiding citizens. This has been a learning experience for them too. After that, they have been talking to everybody and their friends about being aware about complying with city zoning ordinances as this, and the importance of what it is and keeping their homes up to code.
Okay, and that concludes your presentation?
Yes, madam.
Okay, let's hear from the board.
So you'll close the public hearing and open it up for discussion?
I'm sorry,
motion from the
close the
board.
public hearing and hear from the board. Open it for board discussion.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being here, and have a beautiful rest of your evening.
So, I'm willing to make a motion.
Please do.
Okay.
Before we get into that, I would note that just we had concern about the side, we had concerns about the side construction. That's actually on the existing survey. The site plan does not show anything built off to the side.
That being this one, this first one.
That's correct.
Right. That's
That's
the actual site plan that we're
That you're
relying
gonna
on.
be, that you're gonna be talking
Right.
about.
And so when if we were to seek approval of the variance request based upon this site plan, anything to the side would not be included, would need to be removed.
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, so it's been a while since I've done one of these, so I'll give it a shot. I move that the variance request for case VRB 23-06, located at 3302 West Ellicott Street, be granted as depicted on the site plan, presented for a public hearing, for reduction of the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 6.2 feet, with the following condition, that the rear covered patio never be enclosed. That said variance as condition be granted upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that the location and size of the patio are logical, that the existing conditions of the home, including access to the covered patio through sliding glass doors, create a practical difficulty that would require the covered patio to be in this location as opposed to others, as well as the location of the air conditioning and other utilities that would prevent the covered patio from being on the east side. And that is all.
We have a motion, we have a second?
I'm sorry, did you add the condition?
That it never be enclosed?
Yeah. Did you-
Yes.
You did?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion from the board? Okay, I have a question, since you made the point about it not meeting the setback on the west side, then they did not ask for a reduction in that.
So the existing home, being as it was built and approved and CO'd in its current location, even though it is in a setback, that is a design-approved plan
Okay.
back in the 60s. So, you know, it does exist in the setback, but it's okay to be there because it was approved way back when.
Understood, but the patio itself doesn't have to meet it?
Well, that's the point, is that we're granting a variance.
We're
It's
granting-
actually another point that I probably should have mentioned in my motion, is that the home built in the 1960s already exists in the setback to some degree.
Okay,
And so the approval of this variance will address that issue.
okay, all right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye?
Opposed likewise? Aye, okay. It passes 3-2, so you've got your variance.
Okay.
So thank you very much to the council and to Ms. Madu and to Ms. Velez, Johnson Velez or Velez Johnson? Joseph Velez. It's been a pleasure being here, also on behalf of Mr. Pedro and Mr. Milevis, and we request permission to leave today, for today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next case.
The next case before the board is VRB 2313. This is addressed at 4941 West Melrose Avenue North. This is zoned RS 75 residential single family. Property owners are Scott and Mariela Shear, and the applicant is Stephen Michelini. The variance request before the board is to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 8 feet for the construction of a new single-family residence. Code section in reference is section 27-156 that has the schedule for area, height, and bulk placement regulations as 25 feet for the front, 20 feet for the rear, and 7 feet on the sides. This is the subject property. It is an interior lot in the South Tampa Planning District. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found consistent with conditions. This was reviewed by right-of-way and found consistent. Transportation review not required. This was previously granted a variance to reduce the rear yard setback and the front yard setback in 2020. However, that variance expired. This is the subject area where the variance is being requested because the seawall juts in about 10 feet. What they have here is 8 feet from the center of the seawall to the principal structure.
Okay, state your name and address.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Steve Michelini.
This is an aerial showing the subject property that was provided by the applicant. And in the determination, sorry, this is the wrong code. In the determination before you, the board shall consider section 27-80 that has the criteria for the approval or denial of a variance request. And I'll be available if you have any questions.
Ready for me? Steve Michelini, I'm here representing the owners. My address is 2407 Sunset Drive, and with me this evening is my daughter.
Francesca Michelini, and my address is 10925 Tailfeather Court, Tampa, Florida, 33625.
We've both been sworn.
Thank you.
This property has some unique characteristics which are constraining the development of the property. The first part is the cul-de-sac here, which is causing the house to be oriented at an angle across this way. And then because the city code requires the setbacks to be measured from the center line of the seawall, then we lose almost 7 feet, 6.2 feet on, it's almost 9 feet. But so what we're asking for is for relief from the setback only in this area here where the seawall is cut out. And then in the normal portion of the house, I'll show you on this here, the normal portion of the house meets the 20-foot setback. This portion here is where we're asking for relief. And you can see right here is the property line. And again, as the city measures the distance for the setback, they're measuring from the seawall and not from the property line as it is here. Over here, they're measuring from the seawall, and we have the 20 feet. This is a little better detail of what we have. And then we're asking for this section here to be reduced from the 20 feet to the 8 feet. Just to give you an idea for a reference, this subdivision is unique in that it has several properties that have cutouts for, and I'm guessing it was designed for a dock or for someone's boat. but this is probably the third variance that I've been before the Variance Review Board on this very same issue. The front alignment is going to be in line with the other homes on the street, and the rear is going to be in alignment with the other homes, regardless of the setback. They will all line up. This is a close-up of that seawall and how it jogs in. This is a little better photograph showing you, and the adjacent properties have the same kind of configuration. This was not a self-created hardship. The applicant and the homeowner inherited this due to the subdivision and the way it was platted. The city is the one who interprets the way the setbacks are measured. And I think you may recall, some of you members on the variance board, you may recall that previously the city measured it from the property line and not necessarily the seawall line. But that changed about 10 years ago. So we have to seek relief from that. And the practical difficulties that we're dealing with are that it forces that house to be pushed forward. And in this area, this is exactly where the cul-de-sac is. So in order to maintain the frontage for the other houses, we need some relief there. It doesn't interfere with the rights of others, and the health, safety, and welfare of others, and the property affected is only this property. This is the only property that has the cul-de-sac and the cutout. The other properties on the cul-de-sac don't have the cutout. The variance is in harmony and serves the general intent of the code. It's consistent with the Tampa chapter and code and the Tampa comprehensive plan. And the code was never intended to create a hardship for individuals like this. And the shape of this lot is unique and is causing the issues that we're asking for relief from. Justice will be done in the fact that it will maintain the same alignment of the other houses along the street, both in the front and the rear, regardless of whether or not that variance was being requested. So if the property line was being included, then we would have the 20 feet. The fact that the city doesn't allow that and it's being measured from the top of the seawall, we do not have that ability. So we are respectfully requesting your approval for this petition. This is, as I said, it's a unique circumstance, and we believe that we have adequately addressed the 5 criteria regarding hardship. And this property, as it sits, is being considered for a brand-new home construction. That concludes my presentation.
Staff received one letter of objection, which I have passed out to the board.
Okay, so that concludes your presentation?
Concludes my presentation.
Okay.
Did I leave anything out?
Is there anyone here to speak for or against? Seeing none? Questions from the board?
Thank you, Mr. McElhaney. Yes, you're right. Those of us who've been on the board for a while have seen this before. And yes, it is unusual to have a cul-de-sac pushing the house towards the water and the water pushing the house towards the cul-de-sac. So it seems like an unusual situation. Did you want to, did you have a chance to see the neighbor opposition letter?
I saw it. Jane gave it to me earlier this evening.
Okay. Did
And
you,
I thought
one
that-
of the things that you said was that it's pretty common on this street to have all the houses
It is.
have this similar situation. Did you want to address what's being expressed by the neighbor in opposition?
Well, I mean, we would still maintain, I mean, God forbid you wouldn't get approved, but we would still have the right to maintain a house aligned here, but then it would make it jog in the 6 or 8 feet, which makes no sense whatsoever. And I know that they've said in here that it obstructs the wind and sun, and it's no different than any of their houses along the street. And I think I showed you the aerial photograph.
Where,
Which,
All right, so the aerial photograph, the one that you've got up right now, or are you talking about a different one?
No, I'm talking about the one for the whole street.
I don't know that that's in our packet yet. Did you want to put that back up and point to where the neighbor is for us?
The neighbor is 11 houses down.
Okay.
They're not adjacent, and you see, I mean, kind of zoom in on this, you can see that all of the houses along the north side of Melrose have that cutout. You know, I'm not sure exactly why they did it. I just can assume that it was because of a boat or boat dock. But then the code was different. They measured it from the setback, you know, from the property line, not from where the seawall was. But you can see there's several down here and here. But the individual that wrote the letter is 11 houses down in here.
Okay.
All right.
That's all. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, you've got a chance for rebuttal if you want it.
No, thank you. We respectfully request your approval. I think that we've demonstrated that the criteria has been met in all 5 categories, and that this was not a self-created hardship by the owner.
Thank you. Want to hear from the board?
Close public
I'm
hearing.
sorry. My bad. Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Close the public hearing and hear from the board.
I have a motion. I move that the variance request for case VRB 23-13 for property located at 4941 West Melrose Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in rear yard setback from 20 feet to 8 feet. Based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that this is an irregular shaped lot due to the cutout in the rear. This is gonna have the same front and rear locations as the neighboring lots, which have also had similar variances due to the same reasons. It's located on a cul-de-sac and abutting the water, so there is very few people affected by this. There's only 2 neighbors, and this was a variance that had already been approved just a couple of years ago, so justice is being done.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, discussion?
Yeah, I can't approve it with new construction. I feel like it's gonna be a self-created hardship. You can always change it with a new design and layout with the building. That's my.
I agree. I mean, if we continue to keep granting variances for various reasons, I understand that the property itself is unique in the size, but they cleared a very large size home to build another home, and I feel like they need to keep within the variance.
Even
because if
taking
we-
into consideration that when this was designed back in the 20s or whenever this thing was designed, that the variances used to go to the property line, and as of late, they decided that it needs to go to the seawall. That's why all the houses are at a perfect low, and so we're gonna move this one 12 feet forwards.
Or at the very least, what you're saying is that it's gonna have to jog in. They can build
Build
right
according,
up to the 20 feet, but then they'd have to jog in just because they've got this weird and unusual cutout. And particularly because we've got a cul-de-sac here that's pushing up on it. It seemed to me like this is exactly what the idea of variances are built for, right? This is
This is not a
unusual
50 by
shape.
100 lot.
They didn't create the cutout.
They can't really fill it in.
Right. So, I mean, look, everybody has to make their own decisions,
Yeah.
but to me, this is about as clear cut as what the variance rules are for, is this kind of thing, right? Sometimes,
but I feel like they're self-creating it because they're not keeping within variance,
yeah, but I
current
mean,
variance ones.
that's what we do every time we approve a variance.
Right.
It's some degree of self-created.
Look, on the
right?
bright side, they haven't built the house already and come back and asked for forgiveness. So
True.
we appreciate that. Okay, so we have a
Yeah.
motion and a second. Discussion closed. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Okay, your motion passes 3-2.
Thank you very much, board.
The next case, the last case before the board is VRB 2323, addressed at 2615 West Joton Avenue. Property owners are David and Shannon Danielson. This property is zoned RS 60 residential single family, and the variance request before the board is to increase the allowable height for an accessory structure from 15 feet to 23 feet and 3 inches. Code section in reference to section 27-292. Accessory structure shall not exceed 15 feet in height. This is the subject property, a site plan showing the accessory structure to the rear of the property, the north end of the property actually. And this is the proposed elevation for that accessory structure, showing the proposed height at 23 feet and 3 inches. It is a 2-story accessory structure with a garage on the first level and office on the second level. These are pictures that the property owner have provided showing the existing accessory structure, and they also show the accessory structures of the neighbors to the rear and to the side. And they've also provided pictures of their home showing flooding that happens and gathers in the carport area. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found consistent with conditions. This was reviewed by right-of-way and found consistent. Transportation review was not required. We received no letters of objection or support for this application. In the determination of this variance request, the board shall consider section 27-80 for the criteria for the approval or denial of a variance request. If you have any questions, I will be available.
I'm Shannon Danielson at 2615 West Joton, and I was sworn in.
I'm David Danielson at 2615 West Joton, and we're co-owners of the house.
And you were sworn in.
And I was sworn in, and we're representing ourselves.
Thank you.
So I think the summary was good in explaining our variance. We have, in the plot plan shows the accessory structure, and I can put this here. Our existing accessory structure is back here. And the porte-cochere is in this area. And then this is the rest of our driveway. And this is a low spot in our, it's always been that way on our lot. So when we park a car here, it gets partially submerged in water, and it's difficult to get into the car. And then a car parked here would be easier to get into. So the new design would take the current use of the accessory structure, and it would be, which is basically a workshop and an office area, and put it on the second floor. And then that would allow a car to continue going into the backyard and park in a first floor garage during times of rain. And then that way both cars would be, not in water that gets, up to our ankles wet. In our neighborhood, we live very close to our neighbors. Everybody is impacting each other just in their day-to-day life. So, very important to us to not have a negative impact on our neighbors. So we've had conversations with numerous neighbors, and especially the neighbors to the left and behind us and to the right, and have reviewed the plans with all of those neighbors, and none of them are opposed to the project and are in favor of, what we think will be an enhancement to our to would also be an enhancement, to to them as well.
Does that conclude your,
That's,
your
those are,
presentation?
that's my presentation.
Okay. So, anyone here to speak? No, what is it? Tell me, just go ahead, Mr. Feldman.
That's the way to ask it, is there anybody here?
Anybody here?
To speak about it?
Well, there is a gentleman in the.
We look under the seats, and there's nobody there.
Yeah,
so-
there's one gentleman sitting there.
Okay, yeah.
So are you here to speak on this case? See, yes, no? Okay, I guess not. And questions from the board?
I have one quick question. So it looks like, just looking at your site plan, there's an alleyway that runs behind the home? Is that right?
No, we don't have an alley on in our neighborhood. Some of the other streets have an alley between.
Okay. What am I see a 5-foot alley on the site plan there, running, is that just?
That is not an alley. That might be, there's currently a
Like a
power
drainage
line.
ditch or
a
something like
that might
that?
be an easement for TECO.
Okay.
There's no, so in our survey, and we had a survey redone when we put up a new fence, and goes right there, and then on the other side of the fence is our neighbor's backyard.
Okay, so no alleyway,
No alley.
got it. Okay.
Anyone else?
Yes, I have a question. I see a rather large structure to the west of you. Is this new proposed height equal, lower, or higher than the one next to you?
When we're facing our house, and then to the left is to the west. And so that's our neighbors. I believe I don't know the exact height of theirs, their building. I'm just
You don't know. That's
guessing
all
that we
right.
would be higher than theirs.
Would you be higher? Okay.
I mean, I think we could look at that other picture, but I don't know for sure.
It looks like it would be a little bit higher by the gable, because the other one's flat roofed, or it's almost flat roofed. So for the two-story structures, it'd probably be almost similar at the ceiling heights, but this would have a bit of a peak above the other one. Just the pitch of the roof.
That's what you just said.
Does that answer your question? Okay, any other questions?
This is kind of to Jane, what is the maximum square footage for an accessory structure before it has to meet main structure setbacks?
So it's 15% of the minimum required lot size, and they are zoned RS60, so in this case, it would be 750.
Okay, I noticed this one's 894 square feet.
Correct.
Just bringing that to the attention that, what we're asking for here is not.
They're under the
Is it-
required square footage.
Okay.
It is under the
Is it under them?
I don't know, that's,
Yes.
from what Jane explained, I thought maybe it wasn't, so.
Thank you, I just wanted to make sure that we
You
weren't
said
going down some
750,
road
Jay.
that they didn't need to if they had to
750,
adjust their,
yes.
or amend their
And what's the
variance.
size of it?
Yeah, our belief is that
What's
that was something that our architect worked with us on
Oh,
to make sure we were under that.
Very good.
The proposed garage is 533 square feet.
So they don't take into account the second floor? The garage is 300, it's 894 total square feet. The garage is 380 square feet, and what's going above the garage is 512 square feet.
So is it the physical footprint, or is it the square footage of the two floors?
Is the two floors.
So then it is over.
Which is why the height issue.
Well, that,
Well,
So-
the point
sorry.
the reason I bring this up for you guys is just in case, if this
My bad, I'm
is an
sorry.
issue, you're gonna have rear setback
Yeah.
problems and height problems, so might as well.
Can I issue a
figure it out.
correction, please?
Please do.
They are zoned RS60, which is 15% of that will be 900, so that's their max 900.
Okay.
So
Your architect is very good. 6 feet to spare.
they are under.
Well, he wasn't good the first time because he didn't know we needed a variance.
Sure, I just wanted to make sure, obviously,
It's
Thank
a
you.
an issue.
honest mistake. Okay. Close the board. Do you guys have any rebuttal after all these questions?
I have one question, sorry. Were there any attempts to reduce the height after you learned that there was a variance needed?
Yeah, we worked with our architect to see what we could do that would be a two-story and consistent with the design of our home, and this is the best he came up with. I mean, we would prefer to not.
Yeah, I see the two roof lines, one that's higher than the other, so I was wondering why they don't at least match the 1 foot 5 inches reduction to make it even with the other one. Was that considered?
We're talking about how that peak is lower than that peak. Yeah, my understanding, like when we worked with our architect and looked at the inside renderings, to me it looked like this. I mean, it does not have higher ceilings than, or a steeper slope of the roof than what would, what would be normally designed. So
it's a big accessory structure, and increasing it by that much, and being larger than any around you is a little bit significant in my mind. So I'm really trying to figure out
yes.
what's really needed and what measures could be taken.
Are you talking about that 1 foot 5 inch where it sticks up partway through?
Yes.
What year was the main home built?
In the 30s,
30s. How many square feet's the main home?
2,500 approximately,
2,500?
maybe 20. How do you know?
We might be 2,700 when we closed in a porch about 20 years ago.
2,700?
Yeah,
Okay.
something like that.
And you guys are needing the additional office above the garage because there's not an office already in the home?
Well, it's also a work. So I have a lot of projects I do in the first floor with.
It's a workshop.
And so it would be a workshop, and then I have an office in one of the. I work at home, and I have an office in one of the bedrooms. And it would be better for me to not be using up the bedroom.
Okay. So the main purpose is to get the garage to get the car out of the water.
Yeah.
Flooding. Okay.
And then there is, I didn't provide a picture of it, but when you face our house, behind us and to the right is a larger accessory structure than the one that you see to the left. I don't have the dimensions of that, but I would.
It's on Morrison, and so it backs up to us, but to our right neighbor. So it's kind of catty corner to our thing as well. And it's a full two-story with stairs to the upstairs.
Okay, so it's like when you stated earlier, there's many other accessory structures of similar size and height in the neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, so I'll just remind the board that you have to take into account the features of this particular parcel and not other parcels. We don't know the circumstances under which
Right,
those
but
were.
we do also want to consider the consistency of the neighborhood and that kind of stuff. So one follow-up question. Mr. Murphy asked you about the main home, and it sounded like, but I guess I want to confirm this with you. You're trying to match up the look of the accessory structure with the look of the principal home. And your principal home, I don't see any photographs of it here, but does it also have a similar roof type system? Is that the look is consistent? Is that what you're?
Yeah, yes, it has a front porch with a slanted roof, and then it has a roof on.
A gabled roof.
A
just
gabled
like-
roof on top of the house, and then the side door going back has a gabled roof that comes out from that.
Right.
And
So-
then yes.
And our
My
front
point
porch
is
is a hip
simply-
roof.
I'm sorry, go
The
ahead.
front porch is a hip roof.
Right, so, the point of having the roof on the accessory structure, which does raise it up over your west neighbor, west neighbor, the one that we're
Yes.
seeing in the pictures. But it is consistent with the home, to make it look like it matches up with the home as opposed to doing a different kind of roof system, which might lower the height, but wouldn't be consistent with the look of the home.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? You get rebuttal since we did ask a bunch of questions.
Rebuttal?
Yeah, we don't have a rebuttal.
Okay, so that, close the public hearing and hear from the board.
I mean, again, to me, it's consistent with the neighborhood. Doesn't sound like there's any opposition from any of the neighbors who would be impacted by it. They are keeping the existing footprint of the accessory structure, just going up in that existing footprint. And while they need the variance for the height, again, it's pretty consistent with the neighbors on both sides and with what we see in this neighborhood. So in that respect, I'm willing to make a motion to
You guys-
approve.
Doesn't, with the increase in height, doesn't that increase the side variances that it needs to be set back from?
If it did, that we would be, I mean, you can ask staff that question, but
Even if it does, they'll have to address that in permitting anyways. So they may be back here for that, but there's no way to amend the variance now if that was the issue. They would have to cancel it, renotice the whole nine, so it would be handled in permitting.
Jane, do you want to confirm whether or not they need additional variances, or because they can't, I mean, permitting, they can't grant a variance, obviously,
No.
so they neither
No,
have.
this
But
is it.
they would not issue the permit, which means they would have to come back and ask for an additional variance for whatever eve-to-eve setbacks may exist due to the height.
All right. Jane Amado, Development Coordination, they do not need additional variances because they are under the required square footage. So the setbacks stand at 3 and 3, 3 on the rear and 3 on the sides. The only aspect of the accessory structure setbacks and height regulations that they are not meeting presently is the height, which is why they're here for the variance.
thank you for clarifying that, because
Thank
that's what I heard you say before, but it wasn't clicking with me, so that's helpful, thank you.
You were going to make board?
I was gonna
motion?
make a motion if no one else wants to make a motion or talk about it. I move that the variance request for case VRB 23-23, ooh, cool, for property located at 2615 West Jeton Avenue, be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for an increase in allowable height from 15 feet to 23 feet 3 inches, with an encroachment for eaves and gutters based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code. Specifically that the height of, well, specifically that the variance being requested is within the footprint of an existing accessory structure, that the owners are merely going up in height, that the height is consistent with neighboring structures and is consistent with the look and feel of the neighborhood, and that they are attempting to match the match the look of the existing home and structures, as well as trying to deal with the low point in flooding that exists on their house for current parking.
We have a motion, or have a second?
I'll second.
Any board discussion? Call the question. Okay, all in favor of the variance as stated signify by saying aye.
Aye?
Aye. Opposed?
Okay.
Okay, it passes 3-2.
Thank you. for
Thank
your
you.
Time.
Have a great night. think that's it.
That concludes our agenda for the evening. So
Good work.
we can adjourn. Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Good, no.
Okay. Oh, gosh. Gavel. Okay. Well, thank you all for bearing with